of St.Ann came to Victoria in 1858. You will realize that at that time it was a very small little town, and a lot of French Canadians here because they were working with the Hudson Bay Company. Many of them were fur traders. And so the bishop became conscious that there were quite a number of Catholics in the town, and these Catholics were marrying and having children, and there was no Catholic school. So he went to Quebec to look for sisters who would come back to this Pacific Northwest to educate the children and to help them to learn about their faith. So when he went to a new community, which was called the Sisters of St.Ann, and said, are there any sisters that would be willing to come west? Now, coming west from Quebec was a very, very long and difficult journey. All the sisters in the congregation offered to go. They were all eager to be missionaries. So they settled in the little cabin that had been arranged for them, and the next morning invited the children to come for school. So they were here with that view to educate. There were also people that were sick, that were looking for help, they were looking for counseling, and they would come to the sisters, and the sisters would go to the homes to care for the sick, to lay out the dead. And so they're very, very soon, less than 20 years, I think it was 18 years after their arrival, there was a strong movement in the city to have a hospital. Dr. Helmken, who's so well known here in Victoria, came to the sisters along with other citizens and the bishop, of course, to say, would you sisters start a hospital? So they did. With no money, they went around looking for whatever they could for help, and at that time they built the St. Joseph's Hospital, and they ran that hospital until the 60s.
I left home and I entered the School of Nursing, and I was there, maybe not very long, and I was in the habit of going to Mass in the morning, and it was a Saturday, and Mass at the convent across the street was going to be later in the morning, so I said, well, that's great, I'll go over there. I went over to the convent, and during the liturgy, I experienced the call to religious life. It's a very touching moment. It was a very nice experience being a student, a sister student in the School of Nursing. That went by. And then I worked in the hospital. I was a nurse in the original St. Joseph's Hospital. I worked in several different departments. I did a lot of night duty, and I liked that because it's kind of like a little hospital at night.
Darlene Southwell did research and wrote this book called Caring and Compassion. And it tells about our hospitals in Nelson, Smithers, Victoria, and what it was like for the sisters in the 19th century and in the 20th century.
There was one department I liked very much, and that was orthopedics. But there was one that I liked even better, and that was to work in the School of Nursing with the young women, because they're so highly motivated and they're so happy to be there. So I was associated with the school over a period of time. Then I went back to university. I went to Washington, D.C., and I was fortunate enough to get my master's in nursing.
That little cabin that I mentioned when they first started, soon, of course, was too small, and so it was expanded. And then sometime after, the big building, which is St. Anne's Academy, was constructed in 3 stages, and it was a boarding school. It was also the center for the sisters, our elderly sisters, those who needed care, who were at St. Anne's Academy. Novices, the young women coming in to be sisters, were at St. Anne's Academy, plus a boarding school. So it was a hub of activity.
I had my education from grade 1 to 12 in a Catholic school with the Sisters of St.Ann. So the teacher asked the children who were helping out, what are you going to do when you're big, when you grow up? And they would say what they wanted to do. And then she looked at me and she says, what would you like to do or to be when you grow up? And I thought immediately in my head, I want to become a sister like her. After high school, I joined the community and became a novice in Lachine in the province of Quebec. And after profession, I went to teach about 5 years in the United States. And then the community needed sisters to come to missionary countries, which for us was here in the West and in Haiti. Haiti had recently opened. So I offered to go either one or the other. So they sent me to the West in 1952.
I actually was already a teacher before I became a Sister of St.Ann. And I can only say to you that it was a call from within. I myself had never been to a Catholic school, so I didn't know sisters very well, but I felt a call from God to give my whole life. I wanted to totally give myself to God, and so I kind of looked around at possibilities for that, and I just liked the Sisters of St.Ann. They were teachers, first of all. They were alive, they were positive, they were happy, and I was really eager to become part of them. And so I have been with the Sisters of St.Ann for over 50 years. The woman who in 1850 founded the congregation of the Sisters of St.Ann, her name was Esther Blondin, and her name in religion was Sister Mary Ann. So we call her Blessed Marie Ann Blondin because she's on the way to being a saint.
I taught for about 22 years, I think. And then I don't know if you've heard of the L'Arche community for the disabled people. Felt really called to do that. The Jesuits saw my conversation with the young people, and he started encouraging me to do spiritual direction. I said, how do I do that? So it was another adventure, if you might say. And he says, well, just be open to people coming to you. I said, I better take some courses in spirituality. I have a religious background besides that, had a lot of retreats and did good spiritual reading. So I became cognizant quite easily of what this was all about.
Gradually, we began to see that there were other tasks, other services that needed to be offered in the area besides teaching children. And so the sisters began to branch into other things, into counseling, into spiritual direction, into parish work. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend 6 years in Chile. And then when I came back, I was able to use that experience in helping to work particularly in the field of justice. And our sisters today are very involved in that field. We're not so much in institutions anymore, but we continue to answer the need wherever we see it, to respond to a request for assistance, and to try to spread our values working with the people who share what we believe. The number of sisters has declined, and we are all older. So it became quite apparent to us that we could not continue to run institutions, and in fact we needed to downsize considerably. So we began to think of what properties do we have that we can sell. And so in 2010, the university bought that property on Arbutus Road. And the property contained a spirituality center, Queenswood Center, which had already closed, and St. Ann's Residence, which was our facility to care for our sick and elderly sisters. So our huge concern then was, how can we ensure that our sisters will continue to have the care that they need? And how can we ensure that our sisters will continue to have a sense of community when we're not in our own establishment? So we began to look at care facilities in the city and see which ones had a faith-based, were VIHA supported, and that our sisters would feel at home in. Sisters who were assessed as complex care had the great gift of being invited to come to Mount St. Mary. So we now have 12 sisters here at Mount St. Mary, and from my experience in talking with them, they love it.
We have a little card here that we got from the person in charge of our community back east. And on it, it says, opening up new pathways with God. And so that's exactly explains what we're on this pathway, and we have been so fortunate that the destination for us has been here.
Very happy to be here. For me, it's not a change, it's an adventure. So normally, today is Friday, I will go to the art group this afternoon around 1:30, I think it is. And I've looked at the list of what is available to us in programs, and I said to myself, well, why not explore everything that's available that I know I may be able to do? So that's what I'm doing right now.
Mount St. Mary Hospital was absolutely thrilled that many of the sisters, or most of the sisters, chose to come and live with us. So it's been a wonderful journey for us. We were able to work with St.Ann's residents and with our team here and really plan for a very successful move and transition for the sisters to come.
It's a convent without walls. We are here. We have a role to play.
It was not an easy move. I can't deny that it was a challenge for us all, but the sisters recognized that here was a new call to ministry, to be present among other people that we haven't known before, to be there as listeners, to pray for people, and to be a presence of hope and compassion.
It really brings alive the legacy that they brought to healthcare and to education, of course, in British Columbia. The sisters have been such a huge part of the history of Victoria specifically, and their legacy lives on at Mount St. Mary. We have a fund in our foundation called the Sisters of St.Ann Legacy Fund, and this really ensures that we're able to continue to deliver pastoral care, spiritual care, music therapy, and other programs that are vital to all the residents who live with us.